All right, my guest is David Shurter. You are listening to the Free American Hour. I am your host, ClayDouglas. David's book is Rabbit Hole, Tales of Satanic Abuse. And in the first half, we kind of said he was raised in a satanic household. His father was a high priest. And what was he in a particular cult? How does Satanism or the worship of Satan, how does this interlink? Do they have, are they connected? How are they connected? How have they been connected over the last 1,000 years before the internet?
Well, they've been connected because you have groups. That it's gone in families. It's gone on generational. What you have is families who are in generational stuff that's involved with Satanism. And that's how it's lasted throughout the years. It's not so hard to put together. Pedophile Board, they just busted a pedophile group called Dream Board that was online, and they realized that Dream Board has been in effect for about 4 or 5 decades before the internet. And so all of this is really interconnected. You have, in Omaha, Nebraska, you had key officials, a police chief, rich people in the community, someone who owned Harold Anderson owned the Omaha World Herald. So basically what you have is you have everyone who is connected, who has aspects of society as far as the media and the law and all of that goes. And you can just keep it going. I mean, gangs have existed for centuries before the internet. The internet is just it's fairly new. When you consider it in the span of human time, the internet has been out since the 80s, maybe the 90s, personal computers. And so they're so interconnected, and you have this intergenerational attachment, and they connect. Satanists connect much like pedophiles connect. They like to share stories. They like to work together, and so the Satanist stuff, there was never really, Satan is kind of a Christian concept, because the Satanists that I grew up with didn't necessarily worship Lucifer. They worshipped all kinds of demons. I mean, it wasn't just one. It was a collection of many. And you would do rites and enact rituals to actually honor and get power from these deities that they believed in. And so to say that Satanists, there's so many different levels of Satanists, just like there's different levels of Christianity. I mean, you have Baptists and Lutherans and Methodists and all of that, and Satanists are just as diverse as Christians. That's what people don't understand, is that they think that Satanism is just a worship of the devil, and they have this one clear conceived concept of what was going on. And so, but they don't understand that there's a whole world that goes along with this. And really, the Satanism, I guess that instead of saying Satanism, I'm much more comfortable with saying that it was, extreme narcissism and a hedonistic lifestyle. But of course, you had child sacrifice as well, so that does give the Satanists, the Satan validity. But there are so many diverse parts of Satanism as there are to Christianity, and my family didn't really. It's not a religion. I mean, there's no. I never saw it, but my sister Kathy, who is 12 years older than I am, said that we used to have a Necronomicon in our house, which is the Satanic Bible that is, it was made out of human flesh. And so the cover of the book is made out of human flesh. My sister says that she has seen it. I have never seen it. But I was young, and because of experiences that went through, we had a guy who came and found us when I was 10 that we ended up murdering. And that broke my training at the MKUltra, and we ended up having to run. So even though it was a terrible situation, it got me out of what I was involved with at 10 years old. And so I've been out of it since 10.
Let me take you as an aside. One of the things that's really stuck in my mind was when talking with Kathy O'Brien. She said she ran heroin from up to George Bush's office. You know, if you ever want to know why George Bush threw up on the Japanese ambassador, that's why. But she said that while she was in MKUltra, while she was the go-between between Noriega and Bush, that she could do any drug she wanted to do, cocaine, heroin, any drug she wanted to do, but they would not allow her to smoke marijuana. And of course, we know, I've just got an article up or a film up talking about how cannabis kills cancer. You know, so we'd be a lot healthier if we had cannabis here. But what about that? What about that? Now, I've also said if a man with a badge can walk up to you and say, "What's that you got in your pocket?" "Whoa, that smells like marijuana." "Whoa, you're going to go to jail." Then you live in a police state. But why is it illegal? If it cures cancer, why is it illegal? Why have they arrested 60 million people for it? And why don't they won't? Why would they not allow their MKUltra people to smoke it?
Well, MKUltra, the whole thing about it is that marijuana actually relaxes a person in order to think. If you look at all the other drugs, cocaine, heroin, all of that, they're so mind-altering that you can't control yourself on them, and they're highly addictive. The reason why marijuana, we have such a huge problem with marijuana as far as people being arrested with that, is because you can grow marijuana. And if people realize the medicinal attributes of marijuana, you would see a lot more people want marijuana on, you know, even Iowa, which is very conservative, has medical marijuana. And so we're already starting to see it, but people like Pfizer and all of those big drug companies don't want to see their drugs, you know, antidepressants, perfect example. So many people are taking antidepressants that they're finding antidepressants in our water now because so many people are peeing out this chemical and it's going into our water system. So if you had marijuana and people smoked marijuana and actually found the medicinal, the relaxation, being able, you know, I have never heard of anybody smoking a joint and going out and wrecking a car. I have heard story after story after story of people having 3 beers and totaling their car and killing people. And when you find out that with marijuana, just think if we've legalized it, what would happen to the drug companies that are selling all of these antidepressants and all of these antipsychotics and making billions of dollars off of it a year? Those numbers would come down significantly. And they don't want, for MKUltra to work and for the design to MKUltra to work, you need to keep a person in a state of constant stress. That's the best way to compartmentalize and keep someone controlled, is to keep them in a tight form of stress.
Well, you've just described what Alex Jones does, and the rest of the news media. And Alex Jones, face it, folks, Alex Jones is just another Jewish commentator that doesn't want you to know the whole truth about the control that they exercise.
No.
But they want you to be afraid. They want you to be afraid. And frankly, I think that's part of their plan. Be afraid, divide and conquer. Well, you don't want to hang out with Clay. You don't want to talk to Clay. He supports marijuana. He supports drugs. He supports legalizing marijuana. He supports reinstituting what used to be $1 billion crop, now would be $1 trillion crop if we allowed our farmers to grow hemp. Oh, and you can't get high off hemp.
You can't get high off hemp. And the other thing is that people don't realize is that the destruction that we've done with the rainforest would be really taken care of if we started to grow crops of hemp. Because it has such a strong propensity to help not only, I mean, when you consider hemp, you have rope, you have clothing, you have textiles. If we could legalize marijuana and we could grow hemp again, I think that California would get out of the problems that they're having.
Absolutely.
Financially. I think the whole nation would get out of the
Absolutely.
problems that we were having.
They stole it from us in the 30s. They stole our number one cash crop in America. They stole it.
Yes, they did. And they, and people are saying, oh, well, marijuana is illegal, you're going to go to jail. Well, let me remind you that alcohol was illegal at one point in time, too. And look at what happened then. Look at the problems that we had. And the people that are in charge, they know about prohibition. They know about the problems with prohibition. But when you think about it, why not, legalize marijuana? What? And, 60 million people are in jail. 60 million people, one person in jail for a year costs $100,000. So you do the math. What? You're going to legalize pot and hurt our prison system?
That's exactly
Are you kidding?
That's exactly it.
And that's exactly it. You want to hurt our prison system? You want to take our money away from the prisons so that we can't lock people up? Because you're having murderers and rapists and thieves get out long before pot growers or pot sellers, because we have these mandatory sentences for drug users now. And so you get busted with a little bit of pot and you go to jail for 20 years. You murder someone and you go to jail for 5.
Now, let me. I'm going to take a little break here to share something. I have my latest article up on my website. It says, to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. And that was a quote by Voltaire. And I said, perhaps I'm just the eternal rebel. My first novels were written inside a Texas prison over 40 years ago. Unfortunately, before the 60s revolution, the state of Texas had a rather dim view of the use of marijuana. I got busted for a little over a pound. In a neighboring state, the same amount would have been a misdemeanor. Naively, I believed it would be legal. And I wrote one of my unreleased books about a future in the United States when all laws against victimless crimes were abolished in most states. There were men inside doing 99 years for a joint. I took a plea to avoid that possibility. My attorney got some kind of award for taking me off the streets. And the judge that sentenced me, his name was Matthews, he sentenced me to 7 years, and he was busted the year I got out for running tons of pot with some big rancher businessman. I also outlived him. And a few years later, I learned that the CIA was behind most of the drug running in this country. I ran that story in my biker magazine, Writers Exchange in Miami, and that was the CIA, the first time the CIA threatened me. Who are the real criminals here?
The government. CIA are the real criminals. And also the whole thing about war on drugs is you also have to realize that it's a multi-billion-dollar business that they're able to walk in and seize property. And so there is a lot of money involved with keeping marijuana down. You have the prison system that's making $100,000 a year off of one prisoner. Just one prisoner costs $100,000 a year to house. And then you also have the search and seizure laws, which people can walk in. There are some states where if you get busted with a seed, they can come in and take all of your property. They can claim your house, they can claim your cars, they can claim everything. And that's a multi-billion-dollar business. And that's the reason why they're not going to allow this, because most Americans, I don't know what your experience is, but my experience, because of what I grew up with, I'm 45 years old, tons of people smoke pot. People you would never think smoke pot. It's not any big deal. The same hand is that I don't see a lot of people anymore doing coke or meth, but why don't we see, at least around here, they don't bust a lot of people who are selling coke or meth. It's always pot people, people who are driving, transporting pot that are getting busted and going to jail. And you don't hear anything about the meth. And Council Bluffs, when they did the HBO video, Council Bluffs was supposed to be the mecca for meth. And there's still a big problem with meth. Why aren't they busting meth and coke and heroin and all of that stuff? Why are they busting the pot? Because you rarely hear about any of the other things. When's the last time you heard, we busted this big coke ring? It's always pot. And so it's just another affront on people's liberties. It's the same thing as this whole Christianity thing. I mean, I've never seen a religion get so trashed, but you know, and now with this whole thing in the shooter that thought he was the Joker, and now they're again talking about taking away guns. And I don't own a gun myself, but I also realize that if you take away guns from all of the law-abiding people, the only people who are going to have guns are all the criminals. And so I don't really necessarily...
Keep in mind what Ayn Rand said in Atlas Shrugged. She said the government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us. And that's what the tax laws, the drug laws, prostitution laws, it's all there. It's all together.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's all meant to keep us, again, it's trying to make... When the police in Omaha, Nebraska have a really bad reputation because they treat everybody like criminals, but that's basically what they look at, is that the police are the good guys and everyone else is a criminal. And it is criminalizing the entire nation. And it's just amazing the liberties that are being taken away and the complacency that is allowing this to happen must stop. People do not realize that they're going to strip us away of our civil liberties to the point where we're not going to have anything left, and then internment camps are going to start coming.
Recorded live.
All right, just added another recording here. Sorry about that. By the way, up on TalkShoe, if we miss the recording on TalkShoe by this afternoon, it'll be up there and replace the abbreviated one. David, I mean, I wrote novels about the United States in the future when an enigmatic character, shows up and suddenly has more money than anybody else in the country. He becomes like a Rothschild. His name's Solomon, and he kind of infiltrates the entertainment industry because half the world thinks he's the Messiah and the other half think he's the Antichrist.
And that's the division that we've seen in America. That's what our government has done to us, is that instead of actually putting it together to where we can feel like we have similar traits with each other, they have polarized it to the point where it's either all good or all bad. And what situation have you ever been in has been all good or all bad? Isn't it generally a mixture of both? And so we have this polarization of, even with especially with our election and all of that, people are just, we're so polarized that we're not thinking straight. We're no longer thinking straight. We're very emotional. We're a very emotional nation that are caught up with our emotions, and we don't really think quite clearly. However, as far as the presidential election goes, I think we're all doomed. I've seen Obama in person, and I just shook Mitt Romney's hand just about 2 months ago and looked him straight in the face and realized, oh my goodness, we're in some deep doo-doo, America, because our leaders are just basically puppets for the rich.
That's right, and Romney is exactly that. Everybody that works for Clear Channel, Bain Capital owns Clear Channel. Romney is still making money off of Bain Capital, and they're controlling everything you say.
Oh yeah, everything that he says is controlled. I asked him for help. I wanted to give him a copy of my book so he could read it. And his reply was he was helping me. He was helping America. And I'm just, really what he should have said was, I am helping you. I'm helping myself to America. Because that's basically what our politicians are like.
Well, Ron Paul has been sidelined. We've got an election coming up. That is exactly like the last election. What was your choices last election, Obama or Songbird McCain?
It was the first year I never voted in my life. It was the first time I chose not to vote in my life. I have voted since I was 19 years old, or 18. I think I was grandfathered in at 18 in Iowa. And so I voted all of my life, and when it came down to Obama or McCain, I couldn't vote either way. I was so afraid that McCain would die and we would end up getting Palin, and yet I didn't want Obama either, and so I opted out. That's why I just don't complain, because they always say if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. But and this year, I don't know who I'm voting for this year either. I don't even know if I'm going to vote.
Were you referring to Sarah let's bomb Iran, Palin?
Yes.
Isn't that a strange position for the whole Tea Party movement to take? I mean, the Tea Party, I thought that was going to be something good for us. I thought we were finally starting to get through to people, and then all of a sudden, the sweetheart wants us to go to war, another war.
Yeah. The thing about it with the Tea Party, the thing that I get angry about is the Tea Party pretty much calls itself a Christian base, and I'm not sure when Jesus Christ said, hey, go to war for me, you know? I just don't understand that. If you're Christian, why are you advocating war and going into another war that we can't simply afford?
Okay, let me go back.
We are bankrupt because of the wars that we're in already.
Let me just ask you this. This has always been hard for me to understand. You know, I've never felt comfortable in a church. I'm not satanic. I don't care. You know, there's nothing about that. I'm in touch with God as much as any priest out there is, in my opinion. In my opinion. But it's the whole Christian thing here. If you don't believe just like us, then you're going to go to hell. You're going to go to hell. And I think of hell you shouldn't care. You can't go because you are there, and you stay till you pay as men, not more. I don't know. You know, it's like they have used the devil and hell to scare us, to control us as Christians. So, you know, this is and when did this type of control start? What kind of God would order his main man to kill his son? What kind of God would not want his creation, Adam and Eve, to know the difference between good and evil? You know, and is it possible that this whole serpent that they talk about was really the being or the entity pretending to be God and trying to turn these people on a garden planet Earth into slave labor? I mean, dig that gold, you know, grow that dope, grow that cocaine, you know, grow that opium, you know, and give it to us.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, and some people have disagreed with me, but when you consider the councils that were all involved, the Catholic Church has been heavily involved with devising the Bible. They were the ones who decided what went in the Bible, what went out of the Bible, and to say that it is not a propaganda tool, because when you consider the fact that now we have a hard time understanding the church having all the control that it used to have, because we're not used to it now. Now we have television. Television has taken over the control that the churches used to have. You spend more time in front of that damn boob tube than you do reading books or educating yourself. And not you, sir, but I'm just saying in general. The American public has spent so much time, and the Catholic Church basically gave us all of the fear. We have lived with fear all of our life. It is the best propaganda tool to keep people in control, to make them scared. And that's what we've done. Our religions have made us scared. You know, I believe in a good, healthy fear of God, because I don't, you know, want to do anything that I'm going to get smited by. You know, I believe in karma, and God always thumped me when I've screwed up. However, I don't believe that God is fear, and I think that fear is more man-based, and we've used it as a tool to keep people down forever. You know, what better tool than to say, oh, God's against that. You know, God's against that. We have to fight against that because God is against it. And we have gone through all of these periods where there's been so much fear-based. We've had so much fear. We were afraid of God. We were afraid of the church. Now we're afraid of our own government. And it's the people that form. I believe God is in the people. That's what I believe. I don't believe God is in the church. I believe God is in the people.
Well,
and it's through the people that God is going to shine.
I have a new theory. I think this is 21st century, and that's actually the name of my column. You know, I'm a 20th century warrior kind of cast into the 21st century. I mean, it's I think God's alive and well on the internet. I think God uses the internet now. I think burning bushes are just kind of passé. We got the 21st century here, and you know, the reason I came to this conclusion is you sent me an email to tell me that my friend Doug Millar had been busted. You know, I called you to bring you on this show. We managed to connect. And folks, I'm telling you exactly everything he's talking about is true. Just let me tell you that one of the names raised at the Bonacci trial. Now, you know who Bonacci is. This is
yes.
The kid that tried to testify in the thing. He said Aquina is the high priest and chief executive of the Temple of Set, an overtly satanic cult that split off from the Church of Satan in 1975. Besides tending those duties, Aquino has also occupied his time serving as a lieutenant colonel military intelligence for the U.S. Army. He was accused in court by the mother of a victim as being a key player in the national pedophile ring. Paul Bonacci himself has positively identified Aquino as an associate of King, known only to the children as the Colonel. King's personal photographer has identified Aquino as the man he saw King hand over a suit full of cash to the books. And King, Larry King, that was documented in the Franklin cover-up. And you're saying this is true, and you know Aquino personally?
I do know Aquino personally. He was my handler for the MKUltra program. He was my main handler. And so I've had lots of dealings with Aquino. I have had dealings with him as well as an adult, trying to get him to...
Hold on just a second.
Truth Radio, you can listen live or to a large selection of archive programs. TruthRadio.com. The truth is out there.
All right, that's one of our stations there. And, whoops, I just lost you, David. Let me, looks like I lost everybody here.
Hello.
Hello. Let me bring you back up for just a little bit here. If you got the
Okay.
time, you got time to do
Oh,
this?
sure.
Okay. Let me bring back one of my things that I am recording here. See if I can get back up on that.
Welcome to TalkTube. Please enter the call ID followed by the pound key. You may access